Earlier this year, I released a video about my friend Riley and how he traded in his KTM 890 Adventure R for a Tenere 700. Many of you in the comments were upset by Riley's personal choices and felt that this was a foolish decision and it should have been the other way around, that the Tenere 700 should have been traded for the Adventure R. Well, that's where Emily comes in. She did just that.
My name is Emily Roberts. I am a journalist for Motorcycle Mojo magazine. I also do some freelance journalism as well. I started riding when I was 7 years old, and I taught dirt biking for a little while. I ended up selling my dirt bikes to get a street bike and did a lot of travel. And through my journalism, dirt bike career, and street bike career, I got to ride a lot of adventure bikes. So in 2020, I got the chance to do a direct comparison with the Yamaha Tenere 700 and the KTM 790 Adventure R. I was really excited to ride both bikes. You know, at that time, especially in 2020, the T7 had just come out. Before that, the 790 Adventure was the front runner in the middleweight adventure world, and then Yamaha came in with the T7, and it was almost a battle of these two beasts together. The Tenere is really interesting. It is a bare bones bike. One thing that I really enjoy about it is it feels like a dirt bike. You get on it, it's a single black and white rectangular screen with 3 buttons. It is simple, they priced it well, and overall it's a great bike. I still found it a little bit top heavy, especially with a full tank of gas. Trying to do tight corners, tight stuff in single track, I did find that I found myself pulling and straining my shoulders a little bit more to help pick up the bike out of corners. And one thing I found too was that the suspension lacked a little bit. So for me, if I was to own that bike, I would put money into suspension right away. Whereas getting on the 790, I still felt that although the suspension was still a little stiff for me, it was easy to adjust right away. And so with that, especially with the forks in particular, I was able to adjust it. With the Yamaha Tenere 700, there is only a compression adjustment, I believe, whereas the 790 has that quick adjust with the compression and rebound, which is really easy to do even while you're riding. One of my favorite things about it that I try to let everybody know as soon as I talk about the bike is how low the center of gravity is on the bike. So in our whole adventure bike world, most of our bikes, whether they're middleweights or heavyweights or even lightweight adventure bikes, they tend to be pretty top heavy. Your gas tank is built for long distances, and it often sits at the very top of your bike, making it really hard to handle in nimble and tight technical sections. The 790 Adventure platform and the 890 Adventure platform both has their gas tanks covering the engine, almost acting as an added protection or engine shroud for the bike itself. What this also does, though, is it allows the whole center of gravity to drop right down to the bottom of the frame and allows it to feel really lightweight and nimble while you're riding. So for a smaller rider, somebody who often struggles to touch ground or even picking up a bike when they drop it, it's really important to look at the geometry of the bike when you're looking for a new bike. And for me, I found that the 790 and 890 platform were really ideal in that aspect. They still come with a 20-liter fuel tank, but 10 liters on either side of your engine makes it feel really, really lightweight overall as soon as you start riding. And even when you're not riding, just picking the bike up off the kickstand, it feels like it's a smaller, lightweight dirt bike. Big issue or hesitancy that I think a lot of riders have with the 790 and 890 is the durability of those gas tanks that cover up the engine, and then B, also the width of them. And I kind of relate it to a GS 1200 or GS 1250. I've always really enjoyed that bike, but it does often have its limitations, especially when you're going through deep rutted areas. With the 790 and 890, KTM did a lot of testing and crash sliding and skids on those tanks to ensure that they wouldn't break. Speaking towards the strength of the gas tanks, I've actually hit a deer with my 790. Not on purpose, mind you, but yeah, I was riding one day mid-daylight and I had a deer come out from the side. I hit it pretty good head on, but it definitely hit my gas tanks before it flew off and died in the ditch. And I was really impressed with the durability of the plastics and especially of the gas tank of the bike. So I know that there is a large amount of impact on my left gas tank. There is not a scratch, not a dent from that. The only thing that was broken on my bike was the inside of my left side panel, and my front fender was cracked. So aside from that, I was able to hit the deer, keep the bike up, come to a brake sliding stop as the deer jumped over me and died. It was a traumatic moment, but again, I'm really happy that I was riding such a great and capable bike to be able to get through that. The KTM 790 Adventure produces 95 horsepower. The power is absolutely awesome. It comes in 4 modes. It comes with rain, street mode, off-road mode, and rally mode. Street mode is really nice and responsive. It automatically puts on your ABS and traction control. Same with rain mode, but a little bit less touchy on the throttle. And then when you put it into off-road mode, it changes your ABS into an off-road mode system, so you can still lock up the rear wheel a little bit while it has the ABS on the front wheel still. And then in rally mode, it's kind of like the all-out version of the bike itself. So real nice and touchy on the throttle, no traction control. You can turn off all the ABS brakes and settings on that. And then it also has this slip assist. So you can allow it and actually adjust it depending on how much you want the rear wheel to slip. It ranges from 1 to 10. So depending on how comfortable you are in the dirt, if you want to have a really squirrely ride, you just take that all the way out and it just slides everywhere. It's super nimble, really fun, and great to ride with. Just a great bike. It's nimble, it's fun to ride, and it's easy for anybody of any size to ride. So for me, being 5'5", I can ride it just as well as my buddy who has the same bike who's 6'4". And that's a really nice feature to have. And that's something that you don't often get with adventure bikes. I've always found myself having to kind of tone down my riding because bikes tend to be a little bit heavy for me, especially in the top weight of it. And for me, in the past, the biggest issue has always been picking up the bike. So a lot of adventure bikes are built to be quite narrow and tall for incredibly tall riders, which most of us aren't. I have had a few issues with the bike. I've owned it for a year and a half now. And in the first year that I had it, I ended up having the front brake rotors fail on me twice. KTM puts the Galfer rotors on it. They're floating rotors. And one of the issues that it has a tendency to have is that the press washers in the floating mounts are actually a little bit soft. So as you go on, the press washers tend to flatten out, and then you end up with play in your rotor. Luckily, both times that was warranted for me, and I'm quite happy with KTM's warranty. They were quick to get me new parts and to get new rotors on. So we'll see how long this next set of rotors lasts, but that would be kind of, so far for me, my biggest downfall that I've had with the bike. After my demo rides and comparison on the T7 with the 790 Adventure, I ended up giving the Yamaha T7 back. Still very impressed. And in the end, I ended up deciding to purchase the 790. it was one of those things where I had fallen in love with the bike, and although I had to give it back to KTM, I never stopped thinking about it, and I purchased it a month later, just on the basis that it was the first adventure bike I had ever gotten to ride in my 12-year career of adventure bike riding and street riding, that I actually felt like I was one with the bike, or that this bike was made for a smaller rider. And you know, the average height of a person is not, 6'4", which a lot of these bikes have tall seat heights that would accommodate that. And so to have something that's capable with a relatively low seat height and a low center of gravity was really important for me. So in the end, I went with the 790 Adventure R, and I do not regret it at all. I've hopped on a T7 since then, and after getting to know my 790 a little bit more and then hopping back on a T7, I'm less and less enthused about it. I still think that it's an incredible bike. I really appreciate the simple technology that's input in it, but for me, it's just not my bike.